Dead Rising, named Dedo Raijingu in Japan, is a horror action-adventure sandbox game published and developed by Capcom. Originally released in 2006, it has spawned several sequels and remasters, including comic books and a few movies that people don't seem to know about or remember, plus a cameo of Frank West in Dead Rising Watchtower, played by Rob Riggle.
What advice do you have for those trapped inside the quarantine zone?
Turn off your televisions. Put down your phones and run for your goddamn life.
Today, we're going to recap the story of the first game. It is important to note that this is not a one-to-one retelling. To get the best possible experience, you should play the games. This retelling will leave out certain events, so if you wish to play or replay the game for yourself, there are still a few surprises. I will be using the deluxe remaster footage to tell the story. However, in my opinion, this isn't a remaster. It's a full-on remake that should have been labeled as such. There's not only new added content, but there's also content that has been removed for whatever reason. Frank West, a freelance photographer looking for the scoop of a lifetime, arrives in the town of Willamette, Colorado. As he flies in by helicopter with Ed, the pilot, Frank observes what he initially believes is a riot and suspects a military cover-up. However, upon closer inspection, he realizes that something far more sinister is happening in Willamette. Frank begins taking photos of the chaos: a citizen fighting off attackers from the top of a car, a gas station explosion, and a person on a rooftop waving for help before tragically falling over the edge with their attackers.
Oh!
Frank asks Ed to drop him off on the roof of Parkview Mall, eager to investigate further for his story. Before leaping from the chopper, Frank and Ed agree on a 72-hour deadline.
We're going down.
After leaping from the chopper, Frank watched as a group of military helicopters chased Ed into the distance. He then encounters a strange man on the rooftop, who asks some odd questions before they part ways.
You came alone?
Yeah, I'm freelance. So, what's going on around here anyway? Doesn't sound like civil disobedience. It's too quiet.
Almost as if everyone's already dead.
Inside the mall, Frank finds a group of survivors holding back what he now realizes are infected, zombified corpses of Willamette residents.
You're looking to get yourself eaten alive by zombies?
What? Did you just say zombies?
Take a look out there. Those ain't zombies. What would you call them? There's been more and more of them since last night. Now?
He notices a beautiful woman who stands out from the crowd and soon encounters an elderly man who pokes at him through a gate with his cane. Frank responds by snapping a photo.
Do you have any idea what you've done? Why did you summon me to this place? What are you planning?
Would you calm down? I don't even know what you're talking about. What the?
The survivors' safe haven is abruptly disrupted when an elderly woman, spotting her dog among the infected, she bypassed the barricade and unlocked the door to reach it. Due to her actions, the infected flood into the mall, trapping Frank and the survivors.
What in the hell are you people doing? Run! Quick, move! Get over here! Everyone! Everyone, move this way! Quick, to the stairs! Move!
They hear a strong voice from above as a brawny man in a yellow shirt shouts directions, leading the survivors to safety. However, because of the breach, 11 people lose their lives. As the survivors scatter, Frank follows the man in the yellow shirt into a staff area. Once safe, he meets a woman in a gray suit and a man in a maintenance uniform. The man in yellow re-enters the mall through a vent. The woman in gray examines Frank's photos, showing particular interest in one of an old man. She introduces herself as Jessie and says the man in yellow is Brad, but shares nothing more. Frank speaks to the maintenance worker, Otis, who advises against returning to the mall. Despite Otis's warning, Frank heads into the vent. Otis gives him a map and radio before wishing him luck. As Frank exits the vent, he hears footsteps. Assuming it's a zombie, he readies a fire extinguisher.
God, it's you. Look.
Rounding the corner, he startles Jessie, who stumbles and sprains her ankle. She explains that she's seen Brad in trouble on the security monitors and intends to help him. Frank offers to go in her place, and Jessie reluctantly hands over her gun.
Look, after I'm through helping you, you and I are gonna have a nice little chat.
Soon after parting ways with Jessie, Otis informs Frank over the radio that there's someone walking around Paradise Plaza with a camera. Frank soon meets Kent Swanson, a troubled photographer who is starting to mentally unravel due to the outbreak. Kent is an eccentric photographer that Frank comes across in Paradise Plaza, snapping photos of zombies and shooting at them with a handgun. Trying to advise Frank on photography, Kent offers to be a model and challenges Frank to take better shots. Though initially just unsettling, Kent later proves to be a hazard to himself and others. Resembling the character, the Shermanator, from American Pie, Kent goes even deeper into the mall, while Frank carries on in the opposite direction.
Alright. I am the Shermanator.
While making his way to the food court to assist Brad, Frank comes across gunshots directed at him. The shooter turns out to be the odd man whom Frank had encountered on the rooftop earlier. His name is revealed to be Carlito. After reuniting with Brad, Frank and he devise a strategy to evade Carlito's attacks. They manage to catch him off guard from both sides, but Carlito manages to escape by climbing into the rafters. After assisting Brad, Frank learns that Brad and Jessie are agents with Homeland Security. Brad confirms they are indeed searching for the elderly man in Frank's photo, Dr. Barnaby. They head to Dr. Barnaby's last known location, but when Brad tries to convince him to come with them, Barnaby refuses.
You can just kindly come with us. We can wrap this whole thing up.
No, I'm not leaving until you can
Absolutely,
guarantee
sir.
me safe
You
passage
just open
through
this
these.
gate. Just open
No.
this gate. It's for
I am
your
not opening
protection.
any gate. Thank you very much. I'm going to take my gear.
Dr.
where it's
Barnaby,
safe.
sir.
Thank you and goodbye.
Dr. Barnaby. Doc.
During his exploration, Frank rescues 3 additional survivors. As night falls, Frank discovers that the infected become more aggressive and formidable, their eyes glowing red in the darkness, signaling the heightened danger after sundown. In the park, Frank encounters 3 escaped prisoners, joyriding in a Humvee. Frank is attacked by a man wielding a baseball bat from the passenger seat. The prisoners spot a man and woman, Sid and Sophie Richards, walking through the park. They chase down the couple, and the man with the bat kills Sid with a single swing. Leaving Sophie traumatized. Frank, horrified, runs across the park to escape both the zombies and the convicts, eventually rescuing Sophie by re-entering the mall through a storage area. As they encounter a group of infected, Frank almost gets stung by a wasp, which he swats out of the air.
Shit!
Strangely, when he steps on the wasp, all the nearby infected convulse and then collapse, disintegrating instantly. Frank observes the phenomenon, noting the odd event before leading Sophie back to the security office, where the other survivors are gathered.
I can't believe those maniacs killed him! I never got the chance to tell him how I feel!
There, Frank, Jesse, and Brad devise an escape plan. Frank informs them of his ride, a helicopter set to return in 3 days. They agree to wait until then, provided that Dr. Barnaby cooperates. Brad agrees to share more information later, but emphasizes the need to gather supplies to sustain the survivors for the duration of their wait. While exploring, Frank receives a call from Otis, who reports that the mall's roller coaster is out of control and expresses concern that someone may be trapped. Otis asks Frank to investigate. When Frank reaches the control platform and attempts to shut down the ride, he is confronted by Adam the Clown.
Everyone used to laugh at me. I was a walking punchline.
Who has seemingly gone insane after witnessing the infected devour his audience. Adam, brandishing 2 chainsaws, prevents Frank from stopping the ride, juggling the chainsaws dangerously close. Frank notices 2 bloody dolls in one of the roller coaster cars as it passes by. Adam explains that the noise from the ride keeps the zombies at bay and insists it must not stop. After a tense battle, Frank is forced to defend himself, ultimately defeating Adam, who dies laughing as he falls onto his chainsaws, which continue to run even after his death. From Adam's remains, Frank retrieves a key card and rescues a mall employee, Greg Simpson, from one of the coaster cars. Carlito Keys is seen dragging Dr. Barnaby out from his hiding spot, forcing Brad and Frank to leave the relative safety of the maintenance room in an attempt to rescue him.
They're the reason we came here. And if he gets away with Dr. Barnaby, none of our questions will be answered.
Brad quickly runs ahead, trying to intercept Carlito and Barnaby, but as Frank follows, he unknowingly steps into Carlito's sniper line. Brad tackles Frank, saving him from the shot. Using his camera, Frank spots Barnaby tied up as bait, deliberately placed to attract waves of infected, which complicates their rescue attempt. Brad dashes to free Barnaby while Frank maneuvers to flank Carlito from the 2nd floor, forcing him to retreat after a heated shootout that leaves Brad injured as well.
Brad!
I'll be fine. Just take care of the professor. Go!
With Brad limping and Barnaby unconscious, Frank carries Barnaby back to the security room. Jesse quickly stabilizes Brad's injury, but as his fever begins to rise, she sends Frank to find medicine. During his search, Frank encounters Stephen Chapman, a deranged mall manager who's holding a hostage in a modified shopping cart. Stephen's paranoia and possessiveness over his store make him hostile to Frank.
This is my store! You came to vandalize my store, huh? Not on my watch!
Someone's been hurt. I need medicine.
Hurt? That's just what this bitch said when she came to vandalize my store!
Refusing to listen to reason, Stephen attacks Frank, who is forced to defend himself.
My customers. Have a nice day. Clean up! Register 6!
After defeating Stephen, Frank rescues the hostage, Isabella, who cryptically mentions a place called Santa Cabeza before she slips away.
Look, I saw you at the entrance yesterday. You needed medicine too. Maybe we should work together.
I don't need any help. You people don't know a thing. You're the ones who caused this nightmare. You ruined Santa Cabeza. And started all of this.
Returning to the security room with the medicine, Frank tells Jesse about Isabella's mention of Santa Cabeza. Dr. Barnaby, overhearing this, becomes visibly disturbed and locks himself in a room with Jesse to speak privately. Still on the hunt for the truth, Frank attempts to locate Isabella through the security monitors. Soon, Otis radios Frank, reporting that he saw a terrified man run into the home and garden store. At the garden store, Frank is met with a gruesome sight. Corpses strung up like trophies. Turning, he's startled by footsteps and finds himself face to face with Cliff Hudson, a blood-stained war veteran suffering from flashbacks. Cliff, mistaking Frank for an enemy, challenges him to a deadly game of hide-and-seek.
Me. Can you, fella? Oh yeah, I know why. It's because you're a mole. I'm right. Aren't I? You are nothing but a filthy animal!
In the end, Frank manages to subdue Cliff, who, in his last moments, shows Frank a family photo and recounts how he snapped after hearing his daughter's screams. Respectfully, Frank closes Cliff's eyes after he passes.
Done in by those damn zombies. When I heard her scream, I just lost it. Everything went white suddenly. The war, it wasn't over. Not for me. It never ended.
Frank's exploration soon leads him to Cletus Sampson, the gun shop owner. Cletus, mistrustful and aggressive, fatally shoots another survivor who asks for weapons.
But I trust people even less.
Don't shoot! Look, let's talk it over.
You can talk to my 12 gauge. Don't get no closer, or I'll blow you all to kingdom come.
Hey, hang on.
Turning his sights on Frank, Cletus initiates a shootout, only to be killed by the very man he just gunned down, now zombified.
Damn, mister. Come on now. What are you, crazy? You want guns so bad that y'all are willing to kill for them? Let me go.
Hey.
Please.
Hey, wait!
No.
Cruel twist of irony. Frank remains unfazed, rescuing more survivors from nearby stores. Later, Frank encounters Sean Keanan, a cult leader of the True Eye, leading a group known as the Raincoat Cult. Sean is in the middle of a ritual sacrifice when he spots Frank, whom he deems a heretic.
A non-believer in our midst. If we are to achieve salvation, his blood must flow! He must be purged! Spill his blood! The blood of the heretic!
Frank is forced to fend off Sean and his cultists to save the captive woman, Jennifer, whom he then escorts back to safety. Not long after, Frank runs into Isabella again, this time on a motorcycle. She attempts to run him down, but after a tense struggle, they agree to talk.
Wait, I've got to talk to you!
Isabella reveals that the zombies were created not by Carlito, but by a government experiment gone wrong. She explains that Carlito, her brother, initiated the outbreak as a message, and agrees to arrange a meeting with him at midnight. Back in the security room, Jesse and Dr. Barnaby reveal some of the truth behind Santa Cabeza. According to them, it was the site of a government experiment designed to create a drug, but the resulting disaster led to the zombie outbreak. Barnaby, overcome with bitterness, labels those involved as terrorists, leaving Frank with even more questions as the events continue to unfold. Frank waits for his midnight interview with Isabella and Carlito, but hears a struggle nearby. Rushing over, he finds Isabella fighting off a zombie and manages to save her just in time. Clutching her injured arm, she reveals that Carlito accidentally shot her during a heated argument.
It was Carlito. I tried to talk him into coming, but it was no good. He doesn't trust anyone.
He shot you?
He didn't mean to. He was upset.
Explaining he's grown increasingly paranoid and erratic. Before feigning, she allows Frank to carry her back to the security room, where Brad and Jesse are stunned. Frank explains she's Carlito's sister, and updates Brad on the new level of threat Carlito now poses. When Isabella wakes up, she reveals a shocking truth. There was never any drug research in Santa Cabeza. Instead, the American government conducted experiments with a parasite found in wasps, designed to turn people into zombies. As Brad struggles to believe it, a loud crash interrupts them from the next room. Jesse and Dr. Barnaby burst in, Barnaby mid-infection and beginning to transform. Frank swiftly kicks Barnaby away from Jesse, who confesses that he led the parasite experiments, originally hoping to produce more livestock. His actions, however, unleashed the zombie outbreak that decimated Isabella's village. Despite his guilt, Barnaby insists he did nothing wrong before succumbing to the infection and dying. But before anyone can process this, Barnaby reanimates and lunges at Frank. Brad reacts quickly, saving him just in time. Isabella then warns them about Carlito's plan. He's planted bombs filled with parasitic larvae throughout the maintenance tunnels, rigged to cause an unstoppable outbreak. She explains Frank will need to disarm the 5 bombs, but they're too heavy to transport on foot, and Carlito has disabled all available vehicles. Determined, Frank heads into the tunnels to retrieve the bombs, but Carlito ambushes him, leading to a fierce standoff.
Freeze! Shit! I'm gonna go after him. You get those bombs outside, Frank.
Frank ultimately secures the bombs in a shopping cart and races to dispose of them, while Brad pursues Carlito. In their final confrontation, Brad, with only 1 round of ammo remaining, ambushes Carlito. After a fistfight, Brad is kicked through the steel door. Carlito ultimately traps Brad in the tunnel, leaving him surrounded by zombies. In the parking lot, Frank disposes of the bombs and is radioed by Jesse to return to the security room.
Frank, sounds like you took care of the bombs. How's Brad?
The bombs are over and done with. Brad went after Carlito.
Copy. Report back here, Frank.
Yeah.
Only Frank makes it back, and Isabella offers to show him Carlito's hidden base. Once inside, they discover Carlito's computer, but it's locked with a complex password. Jesse radios again, urgently calling Frank back She's found surveillance footage showing Carlito captured by Larry Chang, a deranged butcher who now considers him fresh meat.
That guy over there, that meat,
Oh, this is good meat, huh? I just got it in here. It's fresh. You just wait right there, sir. In a moment, you can try the best ground meat you've ever tasted.
Whoa, ground? Wait a minute, listen. I had something else in mind.
Zombies are no good. I can't serve my customers spoiled meat like that. I have a reputation to uphold. Trust me, I'm a butcher. I've got the best meat in town.
Frank arrives just as Larry begins moving Carlito toward a meat grinder, forcing him into a brutal fight. After defeating Larry, Frank speaks with a wounded Carlito who, with his last breath, hands Frank a locket to give to Isabella. Back in the security room, Frank passes the locket to a grieving Isabella, who opens it to find a photo of their parents. This discovery helps her deduce the password to Carlito's computer. While Isabella works, Jesse reaches out to the outside world, only to uncover grim news. A government cleanup crew is scheduled to arrive at midnight to eliminate everyone.
Emergency situation. Frank, it's over. HQ's decided to ignore us.
What? What do you mean, ignore us?
I contacted headquarters, but the government has decided to deny all knowledge of what happened here. Special forces will arrive for cleanup at midnight. They'll take everyone out. Zombies, people, everyone.
A soldier from the cleanup crew arrives at the security room and confronts Jessie. He informs her that she will be taken into custody and offers her a deal. If she agrees to keep quiet about the events, she will be allowed to go free.
If you sign an agreement to keep your mouth shut about all this, you'll be free to go.
Just moments later, a rustling is heard outside the room, and another soldier enters, only to find Jesse has been infected and attacks the soldiers. On the rooftop, Frank hears gunfire and radios Jesse, unaware of her fate. He returns to the security room, only to find 2 dead soldiers and a zombified Jesse in the back room. After putting her out of her misery, he heads back to Isabella. Meanwhile, the Special Forces arrive and initiate Operation Cleanup. Brock Mason, the leader of the Special Forces, oversees the operation, watching his team eliminate all infected in the mall. Frank and Isabella hide in Carlito's hidden room, waiting as the threat is eliminated. Frank is just hoping Ed, the helicopter pilot, will honor his promise of extraction within 72 hours. After a long night of waiting, Frank makes his way to the helipad, but when he arrives, he's devastated to see that Ed isn't coming. Unbeknownst to Frank, Ed is watching him from a distance through binoculars. Seeing that Frank made it, Ed starts up his helicopter, eager to land and get the story and payment. However, things take a dark turn when Ed unknowingly carries a stowaway on his helicopter. The The stowaway bites Ed mid-flight, causing him to lose control and crash. Frank watches in shock as the helicopter spirals down. Just as the zombies close in on Frank, Isabella appears, saving him just in time.
Frank! Frank!
Frank passes out from the shock. When Frank wakes up, he finds himself back in the hideout. Isabella reveals that Frank was somehow infected. Despite showing strong resistance to the infection, Frank sarcastically remarks that he's become a ticking time bomb. Desperate, Isabella works on a cure. While collecting the necessary items, Frank notices armed drones and cleanup forces patrolling the mall. He stealthily avoids them and gathers what Isabella needs. Upon returning, he questions the viability of the cure. Isabella explains that the cure will only slow the infection, holding it off for anywhere from a week to a year, depending on Frank's body's response. Frank remarks that he's now a walking zombie time bomb. This triggers Isabella to investigate further, uncovering Carlito's files, where she discovers that Carlito injected 50 orphans with the infection. Little ticking time bombs that will soon unleash a devastating epidemic across America.
The entire country could be crawling with zombies by now.
After finding a hidden escape route through a hole in the concrete wall, Frank and Isabella face a horde of zombies. Frank collects the necessary supplies and wasp queens, and Isabella prepares the antidote. Together, they come up with a plan to escape. Using wasp secretion to repel the zombies and clear their path, the two run through the zombie-infested mall and make their way into the sewer system. Reaching the tunnel's end, they find it guarded by soldiers. They come up with a plan to open the floodgates, forcing the soldiers to confront the zombies. The plan works, and Frank and Isabella make it out, only to be stopped by a tank blocking their path. Using the Humvee's weapons, they disable the tank. Brock, inside the tank, fights back and knocks their Humvee onto its side. Holding Frank at cannon point.
Oh, shit.
Well, what have we here?
Brock delivers a typical villain speech, but as he finishes, the cannon rotates, revealing an approaching horde of zombies. Taking advantage of the distraction, Frank launches a surprise attack on Brock. The two engage in a brutal fight atop the tank as the zombies close in. In a miracle moment, Frank, the photojournalist, overpowers Brock, a trained military killer, and knocks him off the tank into the waiting horde below. Isabella climbs to the top of the overturned Humvee as Frank screams in frustration from atop the tank. The game ends with no actual closing scene, but a wall of text provides a final update. Frank managed to escape with all the information tied to the incident. The public's reaction was intense, but the US government denied any connection to the outbreak, claiming it was the work of a fringe terrorist group. The world, desensitized by the media, eventually forgot about the incident. The final line of the game is the final line from a poem titled Ribbon the Bibbin. This line confirms that Carlito's cruel plan to use orphans as carriers did indeed succeed, thus leading to all the sequels. As I said, this isn't the entire story. I've left out a few important encounters, including some of the psychopaths, and made a few intentional changes to keep things fresh for those who want to experience the game themselves. If you want to dive deeper into the details, go ahead and replay the game to catch all the hidden gems. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Clean up! Register 6!